second part of um, Unit 2. It still deals with these gummy worms, but now it uses something called the age rule. So here we're looking at unequal shares. If you remember in lesson 2.1, every time there was a problem, you saw the term people share equally. And now we're looking at a problem where there are unequal shares. And in this problem, it talks about kids, and sometimes because one kid's older than the older kid might get more than the younger kid. And so that's the idea for the age rule. And I'm going to explain how it works. So Crystal's 12 years old and Alexa is 6 years old. So the age rule works like this. Crystal's always going to get twice as much as Alexa's. So if you break this up, this worm, so Crystal gets, so like in a ratio table, you might use Crystal on top and Alexa on the bottom. And then you might even have a total. So if Crystal is 12 and Alexa is 6, we'd have 18 parts altogether. Because 12 plus 6 is 18. So Crystal would get 12 parts and Alexa would get 6 parts. So if you had it can be simplified. But if you had a worm and you broke it into 18 parts, that's the idea. Crystal would get those 12 parts, and Alexa would get these parts. So that's the basic idea. If we're going to use a ratio table, you can use a ratio table to answer the next question. So what is the ratio of Crystal segments to Alexa segments? Well, you guys probably can just see from the picture, this section here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. And since Crystal's section has 12 parts, we can divide it and see that Crystal has twice as many parts. She's got this little piece here. And so she has 2 parts to Alexa's 1. So with the ratio table, we can see that maybe a little bit with a lot less work. So Crystal has 12 parts, and Alexa has 6 parts because those are their ages. So I'm going to use the ratio table and divide by a common factor like 6. And I get 12 divided by 6 is 2. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So I can now take that and say the ratio, that's all the way back to Unit 1, of Crystal's to Alexa's parts is 2 to 1. Remember, you could also write that 2:1 or 2 to 1 like that. Those are the 3 possible ways to write the answer. So that's one way. The next question is, how will they share a 9-segment chewy fruit worm using this rule? So it gets kind of annoying to keep drawing the pictures. So if there's 9 segments, you have to try to think of a way to break it up with the ratio of 2 to 1. So that's where the total comes in. So looking at this ratio table up here, you're going to take that ratio table and bring it down here. So my picture had 18 segments. But I can use the ratio table and divide 18 by 2 and everything else by 2, and I get 9, 3, and 6. So that's the total number of segments here. So, in other words, if they're sharing a 9-segment chewy fruit worm, Crystal gets 6 segments. And Alexa gets 3. That's how the second unit works. So the ratio of Crystal segments to Alexa segments is, so we're going to take that ratio table, or our work from up here, we've already written that, is 2 to 1. For every segment Crystal gets, what does Alexa get? Well, if I continue with this ratio table here, I can still use this work up here. For every segment that Crystal gets, what does Alexa get? Well, I have to make the ratio table bigger, because when it says for every segment, remember that's a unit rate. For every 1 segment is what you have to think about, so you have to make this a 1. So you have to do a division problem again, divide by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. Alexa will get 1/2 of a segment. For every segment Alexa gets, so look for the 1 with Alexa's name, Crystal gets 2. 2 segments. That's where we're going to stop.